The COVID-19 pandemic arrived. It brought uncertainty worldwide. Utah's response, however, was distinct. Many people there showed deep skepticism. They questioned the virus's severity. They resisted public health measures. This was not a small, quiet group. Their voices were loud and clear. Utah became a focal point, a unique case of pandemic resistance. Mask mandates faced strong opposition. Anti-lockdown rallies became common. Protesters often used religious imagery. They quoted Latter-day Saint scriptures. Signs read agency over mandates, and God, not government. These scenes painted a vivid picture of a community deeply divided. Public health officials faced pressure. Dr. Angela Dunn, then state epidemiologist, was even targeted at her home. Protesters gathered outside her residence. The pandemic wasn't just a health crisis, it became a cultural battleground. The numbers tell an interesting story. They offer a glimpse into attitudes. A 2021 Pew Research study was key. It shed light on vaccine views. Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints were studied. They showed higher vaccine hesitancy, more so than the average American. This finding was significant. It pointed to a specific trend. This hesitancy wasn't uniform, of course, but the trend was clear enough. It sparked many conversations. Why this particular group? What factors contributed to this? The Pew study provided data. It backed up anecdotal observations. Public health measures faced hurdles. Vaccine rollouts were challenging, especially in areas with many LDS members. Understanding it became very important. History casts a very long shadow. For Latter-day Saints, this is true. Their early history was difficult, filled with persecution and displacement. They were driven from New York, then from Ohio and Missouri, finally from Illinois. This created a collective memory, a powerful, shared experience, one of deep and abiding pain. This history fostered a deep mistrust. Mistrust of outsiders or Gentiles. Mistrust of the federal government. The government had failed to protect them. Sometimes it even seemed they actively participated in their persecution. This legacy lingered through generations. It shaped how some members view authority, especially authority from outside the church. A cautious, wary stance developed. A core belief for Latter-day Saints is the principle of agency. This is God-given free will. The freedom to choose for oneself. It's absolutely central to their theology. It's essential for salvation, and it guides daily life decisions. Agency is not taken lightly. It is cherished, protected, a sacred and profound gift. During the pandemic, this was key. Public health mandates emerged, mask requirements, vaccine suggestions. For some members, these felt problematic. They saw them as a threat to their personal agency. If the government could mandate health choices, what other choices might be next? This was a serious spiritual concern, not just a political disagreement. The phrase agency over mandates became a rallying cry for some. It appeared on protest signs. It was shared widely on social media. This captured the core tension between public health, collective needs, and individual religious freedom. Many felt forced to choose between following government rules and upholding a divine principle. Section 5. The political dimension. Republican leanings and COVID resistance. Politics also played a big role. It's hard to ignore this factor. Most Mormons in the United States lean towards the Republican Party. Nearly 70% identify this way. This political alignment is strong. It shapes views on many issues, including responses to the pandemic. Party loyalty became quite evident throughout this challenging period. During the COVID-19 pandemic, skepticism towards science grew. It became a sort of loyalty test for many conservatives in America. Resisting COVID protocols was one way to show this loyalty, for some. It was seen as an act of defiance, aligned with certain conservative values. Values like small government and strong personal responsibility. There was also a deep distrust of what some called elite institutions. This sentiment was already present. Section 6. The Official Word. Church Leadership's Stance on Public Health. The official leadership of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints took a clear public stance. They endorsed vaccines and health measures. This was important to note. It provided guidance for members. Church President Russell M. Nelson is a renowned retired heart surgeon. He understood medical science well. His perspective carried much weight. President Nelson led by example. He and other senior leaders were vaccinated early in the process. They did so publicly. They encouraged church members globally to follow public health guidelines. This included getting vaccinated and wearing masks when appropriate. The messages were quite direct, coming from the very top echelons. The church has a long history of supporting public health initiatives and vaccination programs worldwide. Their stance on COVID-19 vaccines was consistent with this history. It was rooted in care for others and a respect for scientific progress. Section 7. A widening gap. Official endorsements versus local realities. Despite clear official endorsements, a gap began to appear. A gap between top leadership's words and practices in some local areas. The church's guidance on vaccines and other public health measures was perceived by some as inconsistent, or perhaps not loud enough, or not sustained over time. This created room for varied interpretations. In many local congregations, or wards, the emphasis shifted subtly, especially in more rural areas, or in politically conservative regions. Local leaders sometimes emphasized choice, individual choice over strict compliance. This resonated with the principle of agency, but it could also downplay official advice. A divergence started to grow between official doctrine and cultural practice. This wasn't necessarily defiance, not always a direct rejection. Sometimes it was about emphasis. What aspects of the gospel were stressed? If agency was highlighted above all, then counsel about masks might fade. If mistrust of government was strong, then health mandates felt suspect. Local culture heavily influenced this. The lived religion varied. Section 8. Digital disciples and doubters, fringe influencers, and conspiracy narratives. Social media became a powerful force. It shaped opinions during the pandemic. This was true for many groups, including some Latter-day Saints. Fringe Mormon influencers emerged. They used platforms like Facebook and YouTube to spread alternative narratives and sometimes outright conspiracy theories. These voices found a willing audience. Among those already skeptical, these influencers often mixed faith. They mixed it with anti-vaccine rhetoric and with political grievances. Some claimed vaccines were dangerous, or even the mark of the beast from the book of Revelation. COVID-19 itself was sometimes framed as a divine test of faith, or a government plot for control. These ideas spread quickly online. This created a confusing landscape. Members received official church guidance, encouraging vaccination and caution. But then they saw charismatic figures often claiming insider knowledge or special spiritual insight. Section 9. Beyond the headlines. The quiet compliance of many Latter-day Saints. It is very important to state that not all Mormons denied COVID, nor did all resist public health measures. That narrative would be inaccurate. Some Latter-day Saints did follow scientific guidance. They listened to public health experts. They wore masks diligently. They got vaccinated when eligible. They encouraged others to do so. These members often did so quietly, without fanfare or public protest. They saw it as their civic duty and as an expression of their faith, a way to love their neighbor and protect the vulnerable. Their stories are less sensational, so they often get less attention. But their actions were significant. They represented a large part of the church. Many wards and stakes, groups of congregations, found creative ways to worship safely. Section 10. Faith, Freedom, and Fear. Identity at the heart of the Mormon COVID response. Ultimately, the response of many Mormons to the COVID-19 pandemic was deeply tied to their identity. It was a complex interplay of religious beliefs and practices, of political affiliations, and of cultural heritage. These elements all came together, shaping how they saw the crisis and how they chose to react. For a significant segment, rejecting COVID-19 restrictions felt like defending core values. Values like freedom, especially religious freedom, and the sacred principle of agency. It was about protecting their faith and their perceived way of life against what felt like an outside threat, whether from the government or secular society. This was a powerful motivator. Fear also played a part, certainly. Fear of the virus, for some, but for others, fear of losing liberty,